Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Cohn, a mental performance coach at Peak Performance Sports. This week, I'm going to continue my deep dive into pre-shot routines for golfers. And today, I'm going to talk about the setup routine, not necessarily of how to set up, but from a mental coach perspective, what are the elements that you want in your setup? You're watching the Golf Psychology Podcast. Hey, before we get started, please like this video. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Dr. Cohn, how much can you really say about the setup routine? Well, actually, I have a lot to say about the setup routine. Let's talk about some mistakes that golfers make when they have or when they're going through their actual setup. The first one is happy feet. If you have happy feet at the end of your setup routine, you're not comfortable. You're just not feeling comfortable over the ball, and you're moving left, moving right. You're trying to get comfortable, trying to get perfect lines and angles. And that's another mistake that golfers make is they try to get perfect lines and angles rather than just trust their setup routine. Now, everybody has a setup routine. I'm sure you do, whether it's 2 feet first, aim your club, set your feet, whatever that may be. I'm not here to tell you what's the right setup routine. I'm here to talk about, from a mental coach perspective, what are some of the elements that you want in your setup routine? Well, first of all, you need a consistent setup routine. In other words, how you step into the ball each and every time, that's going to breed consistency in your setup. And routines, once again, are all about consistency and building consistency. I'm not here to tell you. You can go on YouTube and look at setup routines or instructors teaching setup routines and find out what's best for you. Or you can work it out on the range, for example. I do like golfers, though, to practice their setup routine on the range with a couple clubs down and making sure that they're square to the target. You obviously want to be parallel left. Now, I'm not a golf instructor, but I know enough that you want to be parallel left when you set up. That means your hips and your feet and your shoulders are just a smidge left of your actual target line. And you work that out on the range by putting a couple clubs down, your ball line, and then your actual line. Greg Norman describes it as setting up the railroad tracks. And I love that, the good imagery, good visualization of setting up the railroad tracks for the shot, where the left track is obviously your body lines, and the right track is the track to the actual target in and of itself. Next, I'd also like you to feel comfortable over the ball. What do you mean, Dr. Cohn, comfortable? Well, instead of setting up and feeling like it has to feel perfect when you look up at the target, it's really good enough. And I tell my students that. When you set up to the target, you've went through your setup routine, it's good enough. Don't start looking around at, I'm a little left and there's water left, or I'm a little right, there's trees right, whatever it may be. Don't question that. If you have a consistent setup routine, you're going to be on target or close enough to the target. And so when I say comfortable, I mean plop in there, go through your setup routine, plop in there, wiggle, maybe 1 or 2 wiggles, and then you should be good to go. Well, why? Because golfers sometimes can get stuck on the setup routine part. In other words, if you're still questioning whether you're left or right or you're good, how can you progress to the actual shot itself? Very difficult, right? So at some point, you've got to say to yourself, I'm good, let's go. And you got to move on to the target. You got to move on to your swing cue, whatever it may be, that last thought. Which we'll talk about in a future video as well. So those are some of the elements that are really, really important for me. I don't want you taking a ton of time. I don't want you to have happy feet. I don't want you to try to be perfect with the setup. However, I do want you to work on a consistent setup routine on the range with a couple clubs down, so then you have the confidence that you know your setup. Or have your instructor behind you or a buddy behind you, telling you that this looks good. Extremely, extremely important that you're comfortable with your setup and you're not questioning it. Hope that was helpful. If you want more information about mental coaching for golfers, jump over to peaksports.com. Check out our golf psychology programs. We teach golfers mental skills all over the world via Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, for example. All right. Thanks for watching.